Hey party people, this is Jeremy from Jambalaya Plays Games, and this year we had a lot of games come out, and some of you have not, you know of a couple ones, you know the new hotness, you know some of the games that come out and they kind of like have buzz and then they're just gone from the face of the planet, and you have all these sales and you don't even know which one to buy and everybody's scrambling and whatnot. And we're moving to 2019, and of course there's titles that are just going to come flying in your face, you don't know what to buy. But I'm just going to show you a couple games that maybe you missed in 2018. Long year, a lot of titles got looked over. I have so many that I could show you, but I'm going to show you as many as I think are important, and then we'll go back to this a little bit later. I didn't even think I'd get down to 10, Lord. Okay, so the first one here is a big baddie. It is called Hexplored. It is by Mariucci Designs. This is the Valley of the Dead King, and what this game is basically, it is a big epic game. You are rolling around this map, this big modular board map, different setups, and you're going through mines, you're discovering all these different types of things, you're going through villages and fighting bosses, and what you're trying to do is along the way power up your character. And let me just start right there and say this: there are about 30 different characters, okay, to play with, the different types, and they are all unique, they are not samey. And what you're doing is you're developing these things, you're writing them with like a squeegee marker, and you're getting them bigger and better every time. But what you're doing is like using your skills to move around. You can lose them as you go around. It's just got a really interesting set of mechanics going on to it. Not only are there like 20 or 30 of these races, of different types, there is also 30 so races, and they add like a little bit of complexity to each one of your characters. They're also very different. These are kind of more of the stat buffers, but this is where it actually comes, the heart of it all. Yeah, and then you're going around, and basically the Dead King is going around, and he is getting more powerful, and then you're going to try to fight bosses along the way to power yourself up, and then they'll boost them up. This is a really big game. It's epic. It's not the same every time. You can set up the board however you want. It's got a lot of these chain adventures and things like that. I highly recommend this game. It is a beast of a game. It's like 10 pounds. Interesting game though. That is Hexplored. This beaut right here. This is called Catch the Moon. Catch the Moon. This one is from, what is it? Very small, BOMBYX, okay? And what it is you're basically trying to build ladders, okay? This is a very light game, but it's a really fun game. It's silly because there's like these crooked ladders, and what you're doing is you're trying to get those crooked ladders to kind of build up, and all you're really doing is chucking a die, and you're either connecting one of the ladders to one thing, or you're connected to two ladders, or you're trying to get it the highest by putting it on a ladder, and it just builds this like silly mesh of ladders that grow high. Any kid that's like, I would say 5 that understands games, you can give them a little leeway and just make this wonderful little situation. It looks cool. It's like one of those picturesque games at game night, because the pictures will always look cool because you can see how high it gets. But that is Catch the Moon. I think that's a really fun game. Now Aegis, this is actually a cover for it, sorry. Aegis AEGIS, Aegis, okay? Combining robot strategy. Now this one is by ZEPHYR and ZEPHYR Workshop. And the reason why I reached out to the publisher about this one is because it has an interesting kind of like combiners combat thing. So you have all these robots and they have combined energy based on like your squad. So your squad has a set of energy. Let's say 5 robots, and there's 16 energy. You use the energy to move around, you know, shoot, move, do things like that. But this is the cool part. You have different cards, the robots, that can come together and combine and get higher buff stats. And you can keep doing that until you have like Voltron, you know, or just a big Transformer dude, you know. So really, really interesting mechanics going on here. I mean, in this box, when you buy this box, there is a ton of content in here. They got like pilots, they got all kinds of stuff in here. Just, this is loaded full of content. I mean, like, this is probably what I think 50 or 60 bucks. You won't run out of things to do on this in this game for a long time. Different modules, things like that. So take a look at that one. That is Aegis by ZEPHYR Workshop. This is TRELLIS. TRELLIS is by Breaking Games, and this is closer to the end of the year. I think this just came out in December. It's a smaller game, and what you're doing is you're taking these tiles with 3 different types of flowers on them. They're kind of vined around in specific formations, straight through. And I'm going to bring one of these out here so you can get an idea of the shape of these. Yeah. So you have these right here. They are six-sided. So you get, what's that? So you have these six-sided figures here. You got six-sided, you got the 8 ones, like six-sided here. Yeah, so they're all six-sided. And what you're trying to do is kind of put them together. So like let's say I put this like this, and I put it like this, and these are combined. I put these little flowers on it, and then I spread the flowers. So it's like a synergy you're creating. So if you do that again, you keep going on these chain patterns, and then what happens is maybe on off turns, all of a sudden you trigger someone else's flower, and then it keeps extending them, and then you get to place another one. It chains, and I really like that idea. It's a very simple light game. It's really just place and chain, and it triggers off a lot towards the end of the game, and it's also got a little bit of cutthroat. This one works at 2. This one is interesting at 2, but once you get to 3, 4, and 5, I forgot to talk about player counts with all these, but when you get to that 3 and 4, you got a really, really, really awesome game. And I'm sure this one's on the cheaper end too. But shout out to Breaking Games. This one copy is going to be here for review. Check it out. All right, let's see. Man, this game right here. Now this is around Origins Gen Con time, so I can see. I'm looking at all these titles. This is around that time. So, Caper by Keymaster Games. This is by far one of the best games that came out this year. So it's a 2-player game where you are basically, you have kind of a set of locations in front of you, and you are kind of area dominancing each one of these locations by putting in thieves of specific types that trigger scoring bonuses. Now what happens is you have like a draft of cards between you two, and what you're doing is you're placing them there, trying to figure out what combos work best and put the right equipment with the right thieves, so they get like different setups. There's so many different types of cards and different levels of cards that you can use in the game to kind of make it a little bit more meaty. But honestly, it's a very easy game to learn, and since you really just have difference of those 3 locations each time, you got to learn. All you got to do is learn the iconography, and that's pretty much it. There's a light of iconography in the beginning, but what happens is you just play this like 2 or 3 times. It's got a great laid out rule book, and you get up and running and going real quick. It's only 6 rounds. It takes less than an hour, maybe 45 minutes. It says 30 to 45 minutes. It is a 2-player only game, so beware of that. I just want you to know that. But this is one of the best 2-player games I own. This is Caper by Keymaster Games. I think it's about 25 bucks too. So this is a big game in a little package actually for me. Really highly recommend this one. This is a great game. All right, so this game right here was a little bit later. Came a little bit later than I expected. So this is Critical Mass, and this is by Arcade Wonders. I saw this game at Origins this year, and I passed on it, and then I got a good video of it. I was excited about it, and I kept saying, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? Well, it hit around October-ish, I believe. And what this game is basically, you know, mech battles. All right, it's basically mech battles, and of course these like kind of represent different regions and countries and whatnot. But what you're doing is you're taking these cards and you're duking it out, and you're playing the cards, and it's kind of like a gotcha mechanic. So one person can initiate faster and fritz the other person, and then they can attack. And when they attack, they attack specific compartments with their cards, and then you just whittle away at those certain parts or those certain departments of your opponent, and then it deactivates certain cards in their hand, in their deck. And what you're doing is it's like a, it's like a tug of war of attacks. You can dodge, you can shoot big lasers, you can shoot cannons, you can shoot things that disable people, you can do like something that would be similar to like one of these guys like doing a flip or something like that, or just cool. You feel that thematic Pacific Rim-ish kind of thing. I'd almost want Monsters as like their next run of these, but yeah, they all feel different because you have so many cards you can choose from. You can do the basic way, or you can customize it so you have different types of things. They all have their own, each one of them has their own traits, and they also have things that, like, when they get powered up, they do things that are different too. So there's a lot going on. These are 2-player games. You could play teams. So if you have both boxes, you can play as teams. I haven't played as team yet, but I've been told it's pretty cool. So I wouldn't even hesitate with this one. I believe these are in the ranges of the 20s as far as price goes. So you're getting a lot of fun in this packages, especially with this theme. I think this will hit a lot of different audiences. If you're a fan of Pacific Rim like I am, this is kind of my thing. Or BattleBots, if you remember that. Kind of dating myself. But that is Critical Mass by Arcade Wonders. All right. Whew. There's a lot of really good games here. So this one came out earlier this year, came out around Gen Con. I sat with Isaac Vega, and I was just blown away by this game. I actually didn't care about it because it was just kind of a minis game to me, and now here it is. One of my favorite games of the year, that's Starship Samurai by PLAID Games. Why is this game cool outside of the minis? I'm going to break out some minis anyway. But what this game basically does is it's an area influence game. You're taking these mechs, and placing them on there, and your ships, and place them on there, and trying to get the most energy or most points on there. And what happens is like, yeah, you have your ships that can invade the areas. You have your samurai that can invade the areas, and they come through and they just kind of wipe in their own way. They all have these different traits, and I mean, I probably have some pictures somewhere that I can show you of how awesome these minis are, but they are highly detailed. You could take a couple pictures of them. But this game is not just the sheen of of minis. It actually has some very interesting card play that helps adjust for some of that stuff, but it definitely gives you that feeling of like when you have these robots, they do specific things that really alter the course of the battle, and how they roll out is very important, and how you manage your money. It's got like kind of an action board, and you use these chips that say 1, 2, 3, and 4 to do the actions that are on there, and you have to really kind of time it and figure out when it's best to use them. But yeah, I mean, the mechs are just awesome. So if you like the mech thing, it may be just worth it for you for that thing. But I think this is an awesome game. You're trying to control these little Federation boards too, and that's how you score the most points. Overall, just a really pleasing experience. I could go on and on about this one, but one of the best games of the year, and nobody talks about it. That is Starship Samurai. I would tell you that this game is not doing anything brand new and different. It just does everything that it does really freaking well. It is such a cool game. It's like not a barrier breaker, but if you want a game that has awesome minis and is just a cool game, this is the one. This is one of them. All right. Wow. I got a couple more. All right, this is one I definitely know nobody's talking about, and this is called Lincoln. It's by PSC Games. I got this game sent to me by PSC Games towards the end of the year, and honestly, I'm taking in this war game thing. It's kind of new to me, and I wanted to try one, and Martin Wallace just happened to make one, so I was like kind of excited about that. And this game, you are the North and the South, and you're moving up and down the map, basically from the North and then from the South, and then you also have like kind of the Navy side, kind of a support side, and you are just trying to influence your troops to get down to each other, like to each way, and fulfill missions and whatnot, and like work their way up to certain points, like in history. And what happens is you have a deck, and the deck has multi-use cards, because Martin Wallace is the master of multi-use cards. And he, what it does is you're deconstructing your deck. So as you build specific cards, I think it's 1, 2, and 3, the 1 cards stay in, but if you use 2 1 cards to make a 2, then like the deck starts to get rid of certain cards. So like in order to make a 3, you have to do X, Y, and Z cards. Well, those cards start to go away out of your deck, and it makes your deck weaker. And then in the other side, in the South, their deck starts out stronger, and then it gets progressively weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. But as you go through each deck in the there's 3 decks. Sorry, there's 3 decks for each side. And what happens with the North is they get stronger and stronger and stronger. So it's thematic. And your job is to get better as the North, and as the South is you have to fortify. And just the really cool part about this game is that destruction mechanic, where you really have to figure out what you're going to do with your cards, because you may not get them back. You're going to have 1s no matter what, but those 2s and 3s, when you use them and you duke it out, when you lose these people, it's devastating. So just a really, really interesting game. One of the best games I played this year. Just a big surprise for me. Nobody talks about this game. And I really need to play this one more, by the way. But this is just a 2-player game. Once again, this is a 2-player game, and that is Lincoln. Really good game. All right, I'm gonna make sure these aren't in camera. So, Shifting Realms. This one right here, I met these guys, brothers, I believe, the Van Hesses, and this is by Soren Rhino. Nobody's talking about this game, and it is one of the best games, period. What this is it's it's a really interesting game. Let's just say it like this. There are 5 different races, and there are 5 different boards for those races. And every game, you're just going to take 3 of them and make these 3 different realms, okay? And they're called realms. And they're all going to have their own little setups with different goals, okay? So each one of them has like their own kind of story or area, and they have a story deck of 10 cards. They have their own objectives, and the game only ends when you have those objectives complete. They also have their own buildings. So each board has its own way of existing that you have to, you know, like each game, it's going to be different. This is a 2 to 4 player game. And like, for example, there's a set of cards where there's a dragon. The dragon goes, you know, flying through there and wiping people out. And really all you're doing is resource gathering, you know, moving around the board, moving your people around the board, and resource gathering, and then making these different specific types of buildings. You know, and one of them, I'm just trying to think of all, like you can go fight a troll king on the board. If you beat the troll king, it's over. If there's one that you have to build specific types of buildings. There's a Viking one where you have to go and do a certain amount of voyages. So you got to build the ship, and then you got to lay your guys on there. And it's just a very interesting tactical kind of game. But here's the thing: the rules are very easy, and although you do get spread out and you have all these different types of ways to score points, it plays in 60 minutes. And I hope that they really come back to this one. I hope there's an expansion for it, and I hope that when they do get the expansion, that people do pay attention to it. This is a very, very good game, and this is one of the best games of the year. You'll see this in the top 20 because it is absolutely awesome game. I'm probably not even doing it justice, but all I can tell you is that you will be able to play this multiple times, and it won't feel the same at all, just because of the different realms and the different ways they work. And you have to finish 2 of the 3 of them to make the game over. So there's always going to be a different way of how you finish each game. And pretty cool thing that even the turn order part is interesting. The order of the turn order of the game part is very, very interesting too. That's Shifting Realms by Storm Ryan. This is out. All right. big game, that game. Oh man, I'm forgetting one of these I forgot Stonebound Saga. I want to talk about Stonebound Saga. Awesome game too. ARCHMAGE. This is one of my favorite games of the year. This is in my top 5, I believe. ARCHMAGE is one of the best by STARLING Games. Now, I want to give a disclaimer about STARLING Games because this is the only one that I own from them this year. You know, I had a falling out with them, and when I moved in to this 2018, I barely trusted what they were doing, and then I saw this, and then I saw Everdale, and it all changed. It all changed. Even the Black Orchestra that came at the beginning of the year. And here we are. This is one of the best games of the year for me. And in ARCHMAGE, you have this big board, there's tiles all over it that represent the wilderness, but in the middle and on the outside, you have these mythical beings that you basically go and you try to move around the map, gain influence, move around the wilderness, gain resources, and then eventually, when you have the camps and the towns that you go to, you want to start moving out to where these races are. And when you do that, you go to this altar board, which I'm going to break out because it is that beautiful. All right, I got some expansion stuff in here too, but that's how much I love this game. So you got this board here. It's got a Venn diagram to it, and what you're doing is when you go to the races of that color, you're going to start sacrificing and putting your guys on here, your followers. You got like 20 of them. And then you start putting them on here, and as you do that, you get spells. Okay, so then you unlock the spells of that color. And I mean, there are 18 in here, and with the expansion, I think there's like 32. And as you get better at them and you start putting guys on the in these next tiers here, or I'm sorry, let's say the tiers over here too, they combine, they fight, and then one of them goes up here, and then you get a more advanced spell, and then that keeps going in. So let's say later on in the game you have 2 workers that are here, or your followers or whatever, and then they fight it out, then they go up here, and then you get an even more advanced spell. But the problem is since you're sacrificing things along the way, you lose the spells back down the tier. So there's a lot of management going on. It's got a nifty kind of like time tracker, round tracker here, which is cool. There's just a lot going on here, and it is a really good area dominance, area influence type of game. It never gets tired to me, and it has a solo mode, and now it has a co-op mode with the expansion. It's called Ascendant. I did a preview for it. I'll probably leave a link somewhere. The art is really nice. The game is just full of quality. It's got foil cards. Yeah, I mean, just great experience, great customer service. I had some tiles and a board sent to me like ASAP. Yeah, man, shout out to Starling Games. This is probably the most slept on game there is of 2018 because it's fantastic. It's just absolutely fantastic game. It's smart and it's engaging every time, and it does have a medium weight, entry level, but it's really easy to understand once you get it up and running. It's just really low on these spells because you're not going to use the same ones every game, and you're not going to use them all every game. So, really cool game. 2 to 4 players. I mean, well, you can play one, but it's 2 to 4 players. You can play the single. I'm sorry, it is 1 to 4 players. The multiplayer, the co-op mode is part of the expansion, which just was on Kickstarter. So that's why I'm getting mumbled on my words there. Sorry about that. And I'll just leave it there. That's ARCHMAGE by Starling Games. And with that, there's a lot of other small games. I can look back behind my head here, and I forgot to talk about Stonebound Saga back here. I forgot to talk about End of the Trail, which is one of my favorite games this year. I believe Maximum Apocalypse came out this year. I have the King's Guild back here, which is kind of a splendor killer to me. Fertility. I have a lot of games back here. There's just a lot of slept on games in 2018. I couldn't talk about it forever. I have a 50-minute video. I probably got to cut this one down. And yeah, I can keep going on and on. Maybe you'll see some of these on Board Game Revolution Live, which is on Fridays at 7 p.m. It's a Facebook group. Or you'll just see them on JambalayaPlaysGames.com and here for reviews and videos and things like that. With that, what was one of your slept on games or a couple games you feel like nobody talks about in 2018? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe if you so choose, and just thank you so much for even watching this. Even if it's 10 of you or 500 of you or 2,000 of you, I don't care. All I want to do is show you wonderful games. Take care, party people. You have a wonderful day.